it is a very diverse album, and you, I mean, there's still acoustic songs, but then there's like you mentioned, some with more electric guitar, and so other different influences and different tempos and stuff. So was this? Did you think about this beforehand, that you wanted to make a very diverse album? Or is that just how the songs turned out?
Actually, just how the songs turn out, and that is the way I like to like form a song, that just listen to what does this song need to be like fulfill its complete form. And with Among the Low, I had this banjo riff theme that I actually made when we made the first album. I was standing outside with the banjo, just suddenly the riff was there, and I just stuck in my memory, and it became a song. And I had an idea that I wanted to use this really good drummer. He's a famous jazz musician in Norway, but he also a fantastic percussion player, and he played drums with Madrugada and stuff. So, and I got to know him a little bit, and he was such a sweet guy, and I wanted to use him. And I thought that that could be a song that would fit him. So I asked him to come to the studio, and he said, "Yeah, sure." And we just started to play together on it, and it turned out to be this wild beast with all these drum things. And I had no idea that it would turn out that way.
Was that an early one, or where in the kind of process? Because you said
that was almost in the middle, I think. Yeah.
Because. Well, what was the first one? Do you remember what kind of the first one? What kind of started everything off?
The first song we recorded was "Souls on a String."
Okay.
And that was that's an old song that was meant to be on the first record, but we didn't have time to record it. So that's a song that had been with me for some years, and. We had an idea to like when we started to record it, we really wanted to use strings.
Okay.
So we got this really fantastic, weird violin player who made this crazy string arrangement on it, and that was the first single we released.
Okay. Oh, that is a year ago.
Yeah. And during that period when we recorded it, I made Sylvia, because of the things that happened in Norway with all the refugees and stuff. So we had a plan that okay, Souls on the String will be out in January, and we need to have a song out in March and April, roughly. So we recorded Sylvia and put it out as a single in April, and then the plan was to have the album out in mid-October, but then we couldn't manage to get it finished, so we had to delay it to January. So then it became like 1 year between.
Right.
But Souls on the String is the first, the oldest one.
You mentioned the refugee crisis, that kind of was around that time. So what made you go for Sylvia?
For the first, our Minister of Integration and refugees is called Sylvi.
Okay.
Sylvi Listhaug.
Ah, okay.
And she has been kind of outspoken in I think in not a good way about the refugees, and they shouldn't think they can be like carried into the Norwegian society on a golden chair and all that bullshit. And has been like a spokesperson for to like almost close the borders and all that. And I think that is that's a really bad way of looking at the world and the people that are like driven from their homes and really need our help. Norway is one of the richest countries in the world, and if we should just sit there and like, oh, okay, we have to protect our welfare and stuff, and you shouldn't get anything on this. That is not the way to treat people, I think. So I think that way of thinking is inhuman, and we have. And my thought was. With all the because it's kind of a close relationship with racism in there.
Sure.
And as I'm really inspired by all the Neil Young's music, and the way he like put his pen into the southern issues with racism and black and white. Stuff thrilled me, and I thought that we have been so good in like making like equality between genders and the society system taking care of everything, and like bringing peace, blah blah blah, and it's but. When this happened, it's like nothing has ever happened. It's like the same thing as it was in the 70s.
Right.
And it's also some parallels to the 30s. That is that we need to remember, so we don't get there again. And that was my idea to use. To put that song in like a historic content, context, to say that okay, we are at the same place now that they were in the 70s.
What I find very interesting, and you mentioned all these kind of names: Neil Young, Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen, who were songwriters, but they also attacked social issues. They kind of weren't afraid to speak their minds and kind of get, so for you. And then how do you look at music these days, where in my opinion most of the music that's very popular doesn't seem to say that much? So is that for you as well? Is songwriting kind of a way to make people think?
I hope so. I have at least made the choice that if I happen to have a voice that people listen to, I cannot look myself in the mirror when I'm old and think that I didn't use the opportunity to say something when I saw it. That would be a betrayal to humanity, I think.
Sure.
So that is like just a choice I made, that I have to use every opportunity I got to say something about what I see. If people want to listen, they will listen. If they don't, then I have at least I've done what I could.
And then, well, the Link Ray cover, Falling Rain, it kind of touches upon a lot of it. It mentions Kent State and those kind of things. And then obviously Neil Young did Ohio. So But so where do you see yourself in today's kind of musical landscape in that respect?
That's a really hard thing for me to define, I think. Okay. And I haven't I have no need to define that for myself.
Right.
I think that's you can define it
No,
if you want to.
no,
I just that you can see. Of course, I'm in a kind of tradition with songwriting and stuff. But as Neil Young said, I just sing the songs that I make.
Okay.
And that is what I've been thinking all the time.
So can I assume that in that sense you don't worry about kind of pressure of the second album? What they usually say is the tough second album.
Yeah.
So that's not on your mind when you just write the songs and.
Yeah, of course. This album is more. The first album is really introspective. The second is outrospective.
Okay.
It's looking at the world and
right.
Like describing what I see, kind of.
But then, for instance, because you mentioned Souls on a String, The Bottom of a Well, but also Summer in Toulouse is the kind of. Well, no, Summer in Toulouse is maybe less, but The Bottom of a Well and Souls on a String, they kind of touch upon things that might be a little bit introspective. So are these very
at least Souls on a String? Yeah.
Are these very personal? Do they come from your own thoughts, or is it in conversation with other people, or just?
Now, Souls on a String is about a relationship I had actually with my ex-wife.
Okay.
And the feeling of diversity, and that we were fighting to get things to work. And it didn't work, obviously. So, right. But that was the whole idea. Okay. That kind of the person you are closest to, you can have a feeling of being a stranger in that relationship because of the diversity.
Last question then, because on a couple of songs there is vocal harmonies and so and we kind of touched upon it already. But was this something you thought of doing before, kind of starting on the album, or is that again something that happened
on the last song?
I think Summer in Toulouse there's a little bit. On the last song there is some vocal harmony. So was this something you thought about before?
I really are fascinated about the way they use harmonies, like Crosby, Stills and Nash, for example.
Right.
That they don't have like one leading voice with two backing voices, just three voices that are equal. I think that was the idea. I actually wanted to have, and when we play Summer in Toulouse live now, we are doing harmonies on every verse.
Okay.
So that sounds a bit different than on the album, and but it was really hard to get it to work on the album. So we decided to it works with just one voice, and we used the harmonies on the chorus.
Right.
But my intention was to have like a three-piece harmony on everything.
And now going into playing the songs live, and you mentioned it, but are you going to tour with a full band?
For the Netherlands tour?
Well, in general.
I had a tour in Norway after the album came, because the album was out in Norway in January.
Right.
And down here it was in March, wasn't it? So it was a couple of months between there.
I think so. Yeah.
So we had a tour in January, not in January, February and March in Norway with a full band, and then we were 6 people on stage.
Okay. All right.
So that was like really first time that I've been able to have so many people with me on tour.
But is that the very last question? Is that kind of how you envisioned it once you started making your album? Okay. So if luck will have it, you'll keep doing this as long as you can.
Yeah. And at the same time, I really love to do like solo gigs, because there's an intimacy there that is so special that you don't get when like full band and stuff. So, but a little bit of both is perfect.
Okay. Torgeir, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.